Okay, it's still October, so it's still Halloween, so we're doing another Blu-ray review, quick Blu-ray review, and now we're going to do the Eureka release of The Dark Half, Stephen King novel.
Yep, adapted by George A. Romero. Yeah, it's a story of a writer called Thad Beaumont, who's played by Timothy Hutton. As a child, he had a kind of brain tumour, which actually was like a twin that he had absorbed in the womb. When they're operating on, you see an eye open in his brain. Sort of a bit weird. Yeah, then we cut to him being an adult, and he's an author. He goes under a pseudonym for some of his books, George Stark, and he writes these sort of really trashy, violent novels. Which are really popular, but he kind of wants to move away from that, I think, and then someone tries to blackmail him to say, I'm going to expose that you're George Stark, etc., etc. And so he decides, with his publisher, to kill off this pseudonym, and they, do a photo shoot with a fake gravestone and things like that. And then after that, everyone involved with this killing off of this made-up person starts to be murdered in gruesome ways. And it turns out George Stark has come to life as a twin, basically, of Thad Beaumont. And it's Timothy Hutton playing the same role, but he's got some prosthetics to make him look a bit more grizzled, a bit more weathered, the sort of nasty piece of work that George Stark is supposed to be.
There's a classic piece of fiction comes real life.
Yeah, so this person that never existed somehow comes to life and he wants to kill everybody. Because he's a bit of a nutcase. Yeah, and there's a theme of like sparrows because when Thad was a child and he had these headaches and he could hear birds. There's sort of a theme of in Greek mythology of sparrows carrying souls to the afterlife and things like that. So there's lots of shots of birds and they're featured heavily through the film. So I won't talk too much more about the film because we're just reviewing the Blu-ray. So if you've never seen it, obviously, check it out. If you're a Stephen King fan, you probably would have read the book. I think it was one of the first books of his that I read, and it was really good, and it's pretty much sticks close to it. there's on one of the extras, there's an interview with Romero, and he wrote the screenplay as well, and he said he tried to stick as close as possible to the book, which for the most part he did. The effects are a little bit dated. Obviously, it was it was just one of the few studio pictures that Romero did, but it was still quite low budget. And some of the effects, it was the early 90s. Some of these effects were still in their infancy. But there's lots of stuff on how they achieved some of these sparrows, because obviously they had live sparrows, but they couldn't do everything with live sparrows. They had to, because there were supposed to be thousands of them all over the place in some of the scenes. So they had to come up with creative ways to make that effect. But yeah, there's some interesting documentaries on there. It was released in the States a few years ago by Screen Factory, and this pretty much replicates that. It's got all the same extras on it.
Right. Is there anything new for this disc?
I don't think so, no. It's got a section about a video game that never actually got released, which I didn't know existed, so that was quite interesting to read. It's in production a few years after the film came out. It looks like a sort of point and click kind of adventure thing, but no, never got released. So yeah, there's deleted scenes, and I think there's a commentary. Yeah, there's a commentary with Romero, which obviously he passed away a few years ago. So all the anything with him in it was obviously from a few years ago.
Is the film itself, has that been remastered for this?
It hasn't. No, it's the same edition. It's the same version that was on the Screen Factory disc. So it could do with being remastered a bit more. It doesn't look terrible, but there are a few specks and white and black dots that crop up. It looks okay. It could certainly look better, but it is quite a niche film. So I doubt that whether it will get a sort of 4K remaster or anything. I wouldn't have thought so. If they were going to do that, they would have done that now.
I should say something.
Yeah.
But as this isn't as it's not a film we're talking about like our usual weekly ones. I didn't watch it again. I have seen it. I borrowed it off you, VHS.
Yeah.
Years and years ago, and I really liked it. I have seen it since. I saw it again a few years ago. You can see it on Amazon Prime, can't you? But it's not on.
Up until recently, it was free to stream with Prime if you had Prime membership. But recently, it's moved over to like MGM's bit of Prime. If you're familiar with Prime, they have lots of, obviously you pay for Prime and you get so much with that, but then you have to pay extra for other additional sort of channels as such. So an MGM have one, obviously it's an MGM film, so you can get it through that. Yeah. Which didn't surprise me, to be honest, because obviously they've just released it to buy, so they don't really want to compete with something that's streaming for free for a lot of people. The actual disc itself, I think at the moment on Amazon is $13.99, so it's pretty reasonable price for
Okay.
a pretty decent package, I think.
Yeah, I'd possibly be interested because, like I said, I like the film. I haven't seen it for a while. I've always been a big fan of Timothy Hutton. I think he's he's like one of the actors that has not ever been huge.
No,
but he's always been really interesting. And he's done some really interesting films.
well, I think he still holds the record for the youngest Best Actor Oscar. He won it when he was 20
Was that
for
the
Ordinary People.
Oh, Ordinary People.
Back in 1980. You definitely get hints in the features that he was he was quite method.
Right.
And when he was made up and dressed as George Stark, he insisted on people calling him George.
Right.
And he would growl at them if he didn't.
Right.
so I think he kind of wound people up the wrong way a little bit.
Sure,
but
fair enough.
But I think he gives a great performance, and he's two different. While they these people look very similar, they are very different characters, and I think he plays them both really well. I mean, it's your typical Stephen King weirdness.
Yeah.
This guy just comes out of thin air. So for no apparent reason,
And the main character's a writer. That's very
well,
Stephen
again,
King.
that's a very Misery and The Shining, and there's loads of his novels. The main character is an author. So, but write what you know, I guess.
Oh yeah, and I mean Stephen King's a great. Right, I mean you've read a lot of Stephen King.
Yeah, I have.
When we. Well, maybe not when we first met. Growing up, I always remember you having the Stephen King books, and I read a few. I read Misery. I read The Shining. Of course. I always really liked my favourite of his was the short ones he did was the Richard Bachman books. Yeah. And there's like 4 in there, and obviously The Running Man was in there, and The Body that Stand By Me was from, and Long Walk as well.
Yeah.
Which they should make into a film. I don't know why no one's done that as a film. That would make such a good film.
I say they made most of his books into films.
They have, but why they should do that?
Well, there is a bit of a Stephen King resurgence at the moment, isn't there? So
I think maybe did I read that Frank Darabont had the rights for it, because obviously he did The Green Mile and the other kind of
and he did Mist as well.
The Mist too. I think maybe I'd read that he had the rights for it, but they haven't done it. And I'd love to see The Long Walk turned into a film, because I think it would be a little bit Stand By Me like it's not one of his horror ones.
No,
I think that would make a really interesting film. So
I think I mean there's so many Stephen King films. There's a lot that aren't very good, but there's some that like Misery and obviously The Shining. But I mean King isn't a fan of that himself, but it's still a great film. And Stand By Me. There's so many that are really good.
Langoliers.
Yeah, I mean I loved that story, but the film.
I quite like the film.
The extras, well, yeah, the extras, the effects could do that day and a bit, couldn't they?
They could, yeah.
But yeah, no, there's charm to it, I guess. But no, I would say The Dark Half was definitely up there, I think, with some of the best, but slightly less, like underappreciated, I think maybe.
Yeah, sure, yeah, so, definitely. Yeah.
No, if you're a fan of it, then definitely I recommend picking this up. If you haven't seen it, it's not that expensive, so I still recommend picking it up and checking it out, because if you do like Stephen King's work and George A. Romero's work, I think you would like it.
So that was the Eureka Blu-ray release of The Dark Half.
Yep, hit the subscribe button up there if you've enjoyed the video. There's some other ones to check out over there. Come and find us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram, and come back soon for another video.